Hello and welcome to another edition of 7 Days. I have a special guest here, Jerroll Sanders, and I'm going to let her explain since she has such an extensive history here in Detroit, having run for office and practiced law here and all this kind of stuff. Jerroll, why don't you give an introduction of yourself so I don't forget anything?
Well, thank you. My name is Jerroll Sanders, and I did vie to become mayor of Detroit in 2009. I am a non-attorney. I am a national strategist. I've actually drafted some national legislation to help end police brutality, work with major corporations in strategic roles to take on very challenging problems, and I am an advocate every day along with my professional pursuits. So,
the professional pursuit we're going to get to today, though,
yes,
is the Revote.
Yes, that is more of an advocacy initiative that I, as head of Onus Inc., am currently pushing for, and I've been pushing for essentially the day after the election.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us, what do you mean by a revote? A revote of what?
Well, I also have a background in technology, and so I was watching the hacking notices of hacking unfold back in early, I think it was May. It caught my attention. And it was evident to me that enough was not being done to curtail the impact that hacking was going to have on our election. So on election night, as the results poured in and basically controverted every pollster in the United States, everyone was miffed. It was clear to me that the result was the result of hacking and not of pollsters who had been projecting for decades accurately election results, that it was attributable to election hacking.
When you, let me make sure I know what you're talking about when you say hacking. Do you mean getting on the internet and planting false stories? Or do you mean hacking into the election process itself?
There were reports that in Illinois, and I think at the time 13 states had their systems actually invaded. There were people, foreigners, adversaries, third parties who actually penetrated U.S. election systems and extracted voter data file records. So with an IT background, having designed large-scale computer systems for AT&T and some other organizations, it was apparent to me that once someone is inside your system, you have no idea what they did while they were there. So for me, the election results should have been immediately rendered void.
So you know that someone's in the system, but you don't know where they went or what they did.
You don't know what they did, but you know they entered the systems with intent. I mean, you haven't been hacking any systems, nor have I.
Right.
But people who do that, they have an intent. And in this particular situation, we had federal agencies, the FBI, had sent its cyber force into states to try to help them combat these intrusions into their election systems throughout the 2016 election cycle. And this process actually began back in 2015.
So as a result,
the only remedy for a hacked election with egregiously tainted election results is a revote. That happened in Austria and the Ukraine. Russia invaded and was manipulating their Ukraine. Right, the Ukraine. Was manipulating their election systems. The people said, we're not having it, in their Supreme Court ordered a new election. And so what I have been working on, again, is a call for a new election. Now, when I began that process, we talked to attorneys all over the country, you know, Lawrence Tribe from Harvard, all these people. We were emailing, asking, hey, is there a way to do this? Everyone in the United States said it is impossible. There is no existing law. Well, being a consultant, no means nothing to me. So ultimately, I ended up writing a legal brief that turned out to be a case of first impression identified by the U.S. Court of Appeals, a first impression that has a very strong constitutional basis for a revote.
Okay. Let's go to your constitutional basis for the revote. What is it?
Okay. What I argued is that, and this is supported with information from the United Nations, et cetera, is that we have a new territory, and it's called a cyber territory. And that Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution states that the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government, meaning that the people elect officials, and shall protect each of them against invasion. Well, the argument that I brought forth argues that in 2016, the United States government knew that a foreign adversary was invaded our cyberspace. The U.S. Constitution in Article 4, Section 4, which, by the way, has been deemed a non-justiciable clause for over 30 or 40 years, meaning it's a clause deemed to be a dead clause that can't be used in the Constitution, okay? We're resurrecting it. It says that the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each against invasion. So what my brief, which was a revote writ of mandamus, which I actually advanced to the U.S. Supreme Court, argued, is that in 2015 and 16, the United States knew that a foreign adversary was invading our territory, our cyberspace territory. That adversary intruded into our election systems, and as a result, we do not know the source of the winning vote, and that created a constitutional conflict. The 114th Congress took an oath of office to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Also, however, several articles in the Constitution require Congress to participate in the transition of power duties to move one administration, the new administration, in. And consequently, those two provisions were in conflict because in order to move the new administration in, it required the current elected officials to aid and abet a foreign adversary to help perfect the scheme to determine election outcomes. So by helping participate in the transition of powers, they were essentially aiding and abetting Russia in helping to determine who became our federally elected leaders.
In your legal research, did you find any precedent for the use of the Article 4 or Section 4 or?
Again, it was deemed by the U.S. Court of Appeals to be a case that had never been argued in the United States before, and therefore a case of first impression. I had attorneys across the nation call and say, hey, this is an absolutely irrefutable, brilliant argument. But what we've encountered is a resistance on the part of the media to really talk about it. People have said, well, it's not doable because it's never been done before. We don't care that it's never been done before. The fact is that 17 intelligence agencies have confirmed that Russia intruded into our election systems. And Comey and the head of the U.S. intelligence agencies has declared that it will happen again. So we need to have recourse for addressing that, not only now, by redressing the 2016 election with a revote, but also by being prepared to address this problem should it occur again in the future.
So, being first impression, you know there's a great resistance in the legal community because the legal community is used to following precedent. Like, that's what all common law is based on. How was it decided before, etc. That's why you have very few cases that make law, because 99.999% of the cases are following precedent. So when you have one that makes law that's different than what has been there before, it that's why it's man bites dog. You know, it's totally out of the ordinary.
Actually, the way you're right, but then the occurrence was unprecedented. We've never had a foreign adversary openly hack our elections, and everyone is left miffed on election night because clearly the influence had a material impact. We know that simply from the DNC email hacks and the strategic release of those emails. So what we're doing is we are calling for this revote. Now, I advanced this case. I actually created a citizen case, had citizens from across the country march into courthouses because we had been told that Jerroll, some judge is going, a judge might bury you in lower court. So we thought, well, we're going to, not we, I was a strategist on the effort, and I'll share with you why it's important that I emphasize my role in this. But I arranged for that. And the 3 petitioners who went into the courthouse in Massachusetts, they were first to get the ruling, and we were trying to get this done before the inauguration. So we then advanced it based on the court's ruling that it was a novel argument. But we are committed and have implemented a new strategy that I think is even more appropriate to standing, which is having state attorney generals actually file this case, since they have the perfect standing to do so.
Yeah,
and that's
they are the states.
Absolutely. So we're currently working with that, and just for the record, I'm also suing some of the people I work with for more than $5 million because they laid claim to this writ that I wrote before in front of 20 people and have a U.S. copyright for.
Are you comfortable naming what attorney generals from what states?
Well, we are pursuing states particularly that have Democratic governors and Democratic AGs, as well as those who have brought suit under the emoluments clause against Trump already.
Yeah. Okay. So as a result, do you have any projection as to time? The other problem here is, of course, next year we have another election, and then in 2 years after that, so next year after the congressional elections stop, presidential election practically begins.
Well, I think it's important that there's a mass outcry from the people. If there was a mass in fact, I sometimes wonder if that's why people don't, news commentators, people are so quick to say that this is not doable simply because it's not been done before.
Exactly.
Once we have a mass outcry, and impress upon our government the importance of redressing this election, I'm confident we will get it. And that's why even this opportunity today is so important, to educate people, because here's the reality. We're talking about, under the Trump administration, Trump will determine U.S. policy for probably 100 years. He's appointing Supreme Court judges, changing policy in every area of life, and he's a president who, in his administration, who are acting really ultra-virus, which is with power they really don't legitimately have.
Right.
And so we cannot afford as a nation to allow a president and his administration to stay in office when we have every reason to believe he was put there not by people via a Republican form of government, but by a foreign adversary. And so it's incumbent upon the people to understand that if we don't insist upon a revote now, we will forever lose our right to vote, because foreign adversaries will know that they can influence U.S. elections, and we will do nothing about it.
And since corporations are able to basically buy politicians by making contributions via Citizens United, why not foreign countries?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
When somebody buys a $40 million property from you for $94 million and don't live in it, never fix it up, never do anything with it, I don't think these ever even went to visit it.
money laundering almost. It's a form, it really is. It's a manner of moving money, absolutely.
So Jerroll Sanders is trying to prevent that by using Article 4, Section 4 to say that if you exercise such influence, we can redo the election.
We can redo the election, and it's an imperative. It's not an option, it's an imperative. Every major issue that affects all communities, gay rights, every issue that people have worked to advance over the last 30 years. Healthcare. We've been working to eradicate policing, police brutality. In fact, I've been working and drafted national legislation that could actually truly address the policing problem in this country. All of that work that all of the people across the nation have been engaged in for the last 10, 15, 20 years is now in jeopardy because we have leadership that none of us elected. And even if we did elect Donald Trump, let's assume that Donald Trump actually did become president by the vote of the people. If that's the case, then a revote will place him there again. And so it is absolutely essential that people understand that we need a revote. It is the only way to redress an egregiously tainted election.
Well, if anybody watching wanted to join in, wanted to help out, wanted to find more information, how do they reach Jerroll Sanders?
Well, I suggest that they go to www.revote.info. That is our website. You can see the legal brief that was filed at the Revote.info.
.info?
Right, and that's R-E-V-O-T-E, not R-E-V-O-L-T, but we do need an R-E-V-O-L-T to get an R-E-V-O-T-E.
Right.
So I encourage you to go to
www.revote, and that's R-E-V-O-T-E.
Yes.
.info.
Info, exactly.
Not one that people see too often is that .info. It's not .com. It's not .org, it's .info, and that will work.
Yes, that will work. And sign up, and then we will keep you abreast of our activities.
Well, Jerroll, I'd like to thank you very much. I'm very impressed with your argument, and thank you.
And that's from a lawyer.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for tuning in for another edition of 7 Days.